Hey, welcome back to the channel. And on this video, we're finally going to get to a little bit of two-stroke content. I know a few people have been asking. And while it is not a new project bike, it's the only two-stroke I have, and it is due for a little maintenance. So let's get it out. So this is my 1986 Honda NS400R. And as much as I would love to be able to buy another one of these, and I really would, because I have a bunch of Rothman's Bodywork for one of these bikes, and I'd love to put that to use. Like a lot of the two-strokes, these have now become almost unpurchasable. I don't know if that's a word, but anyway, it's put it this way, expensive. That's probably a better way to put it, right? Expensive, certainly for me. I bought this one, I think in 2012. Yeah, 2012. I bought this, and the value of these things have gone up considerably since that time. They still lag behind the RG 500 and the RZ 500 in value, but nonetheless, they have gone up significantly. And in Canada, where I am, there were only about 300 of these imported into Canada. Reports on how many vary a little bit from 300 to 310, 320, 350, somewhere in there. But whatever the minimum amount was for importing a specific bike at that time, in and around 300, that's how many came to Canada in 1986, and only in 1986. So finding one of these here is, these days, difficult. Certainly at a, as a restoration project, difficult to find. And if you do find one, they're still asking. I think the last one I saw as a project was $15,000 Canadian, and yeah, just out of my price range. So anyway, I'll talk a little bit more about the bike when we get it out. So let's pull it out. Let's see if I can wiggle it out from between these two. I've kind of folded the mirrors back there, and we'll see if I can squeeze it out. It's kind of sandwiched in there. So what am I going to do to this bike today? Nothing substantial, I guess, let's put it that way. It doesn't or shouldn't need very much being done. The problem that I have is this bike has been sitting now for the better part of 2 years, and I haven't started it. Partly because time, and what I've been doing with a lot of the other bikes is cycling. If they've got fuel in the tanks, I drain the fuel out once a year, run that fuel through my riding lawnmower, and I put fresh fuel in them, typically the fuel injected bikes. Any of the other bikes that I've restored in the last couple of years, carbureted bikes typically, those have been stored dry, so there is no fuel in the tanks, no fuel in the carbs, no fuel in the fuel pumps. I've just put some storage sort of spray, rust preventative oil sprays in the tanks. This bike has a full tank of fuel, and because I've got a little bit of paranoia about oil pumps, what I've typically done is put a little splash of two-stroke oil in the tank. So in case on a startup the fuel pump has kind of drained back, or there isn't oil immediately available at the oil injector pipes at the carbs, then what I've got some insurance there until that oil starts to float. So I can't use this fuel in my lawnmower. When it gets drained out, it has to be taken to the hazardous waste depot to be disposed of. So I've just not done it. So all this fuel needs to come out and be disposed of properly. And then what I've done is, because getting ethanol-free fuel here now is very, very difficult. It used to be a couple places I could go and get it. Now I'd have to travel too far to make it worthwhile. So I've started to purchase ethanol-free race fuel. So I've got a 5-gallon drum of that. I'm going to put that in there. Going to get the bike running. Hasn't run, as I said, for 2 years. And just go over everything, give it a good cleaning. It's covered in dust in here because it's been sitting in that line of bikes for a while. Just generally just go over it, give it a good cleaning, and then I'll kind of show you what's kind of under the skin, because I am planning on taking all the fairings off it, and we'll see. The other possibility is I might throw the Rothmans fairings and tanks and whatnot on tank just to see how it looks. I've never put them on the bike, and one of the reasons for that is I don't have any black mirror bases. I have a set of mirrors, the reproduction mirrors for the NS400R in the Rothmans colors, but I don't have an extra set of these bases right here, which also need to be black. So I'm probably not going to leave the Rothmans stuff on it, but I might, if I'm going to have all the bodywork off anyway, it might make sense just to pop it on just to see how it looks. So as far as what's good about the bike, it's very original. So there's not a lot of work cosmetically that has been done to the bike. So like the tank is all original, the side panels are all original, the solo cowl is all original, none of that stuff has ever been painted. The side panel is all original. All of these lower fairings are all original fairings, but they have been painted. So when I first got the bike, they were in really good shape, but there was a lot of kind of stone chips all over these up here, you know, just from being ridden. So I had them at the time. I wasn't doing my own painting, so my buddy who's got the paint booth that I use today did the paint work. So painted the white and the yellow, and then this is a new OEM decal on here that I got when I actually got the bike. There was two of them with it, so I put those on. The upper fairing is also an original upper fairing, but the red has been redone. Again, it was in decent shape. A bunch of rock chips that needed to be sorted out on here that were done. And then on the other side, there was a crack in the fairing here that I repaired. So this is a replacement decal. Same with the front fender. It was in good shape, just had chips in it. Same with the fork spats, the fork covers. So they were repainted, new decals put on it. And same with the mirrors. These mirrors have been painted, though they are original to the bike. Windshield is a reproduction windshield. It has a correct windshield sticker on it, but the windshield itself is an aftermarket windshield. These are correct NS400R turn signals on the front, but not for Canada. So the Canada bikes, US bikes and whatnot, I guess there weren't any in the States, I don't think, but Canadian bikes actually had these turn signals that kind of look like this on the front. When I got the bike, I think were they missing? I don't even remember. But anyway, these came with the bike. They were in a box. They were brand new Honda turn signals, correct for the Japanese market. They were still in the box, so I put those on because I liked the way they looked. And I think the other ones that were on it were in really rough shape. So, you know, they are correct for the NS400R. They're just not correct for the Canadian market. And, you know, honestly, I don't care about that, to be honest. So that's kind of it for the bodywork. The tank, on original tank, original paint. The blemishes on the tank, which you can see here, is the clear coat has cracked right there. If I can focus in on that. There's a crack in the clear coat there, and a crack in the clear coat there. And on the other side, you know, it looks good. There's no issues with that. But typically with these bikes, the red it does fade pretty badly, and you can kind of see that has kind of faded compared to the front fairing and the fender. So these were paint matched. So when I bought the bike, I actually have a dual seat cover. This is the solo seat cover. I have a dual seat cover for it. It's still in the box, still in the Honda OEM new old stock box, and I color matched the paint from it to do the front fairing and the fender, etc. So these are a slightly different shade because they have been kind of faded over time. And you know, aside from that, what else has been done? Before I got the bike, the engine was rebuilt. So it's got, I think, 32,568 kilometers on it. And at about 30,000 K or so, the engine was rebuilt. The cylinders were recoated by Nicotech, which I think is in Ottawa maybe, or at the time it was in Ottawa. And so they were replated, new piston rings, everything was gone through. The transmission was checked, all that kind of good stuff. It was blurry for a second, my apologies. Yeah, it's been well looked after. It's largely complete. It's nice to have a bike where the rear fender hasn't been chopped off. It's still got the original lower reflector on it. The rear side reflectors are still there. What is missing on this bike is on the Canadian bikes, because of our crazy transportation laws. If you feel up inside the fender here, right there, there's a hole on the inside of the fender. There's supposed to be a bracket in there. It's kind of hard to see. But anyway, trust me, there's a hole in the inside of the fairing. And there should be a bracket mounted to that with another round amber reflector that sticks down for the Canadian market. They don't look good, but in order for that to be correct, that should be there, but they're not. And honestly, I've never really pursued getting one because finding them is almost impossible. The other interesting thing I find with this bike is it still has the break-in caution sticker on the tack, telling you not to exceed 6,000 RPM for the first 1,000 kilometers. So that's kind of cool to have that on there. The other thing that I was missing on the bike that I sourced was the little hood here for the tack. That was missing. The other thing to know about these bikes is if the battery goes bad, then strange things happen with the bike. Even with the bike, it doesn't need a good battery to run, but if the battery is bad and the bike is running, you get a couple of common problems with them. The things like the oil light and other things seem to come on and stay on if the battery isn't good. The horn doesn't want to work even if the bike's running and the battery is problematic. That's the other thing that I found with them. So just little strange things like that. What else can I tell you at this point before we start taking things apart? Not too much, I don't think. If I remember correctly, this side panel here is a brand new old stock side panel. So the one that was on the bike when I got it, both sides are brand new NOS side panels. They were really good shape, but they weren't perfect. And then out of sheer luck, for a bargain price, I found these ones on eBay probably 10 years ago, and I bought them. They're not reproductions, they are our brand new OEM panels. So I bought those, put them on, and I have two full sets pretty much of bodywork for the bike, maybe 2.5 sets. I have all the Rothman's stuff for the bike, everything except the mirror bases, as I mentioned. And for another set of HRC fairings, I think I have everything except the lowers. I think I'd have to check. I know for sure I have an upper fairing. I have a brand new in the box new front fender. I have brand new in the box fork covers for it. I have another HRC tank that I basically repainted the top in the red. And I have the side panels that came off the bike that I originally took off it. I have a dual seat cover for the back, and I think the only thing I'm missing is another set of HRC lower fairings, but I could be wrong about that as well. So speaking of spare parts, there's a Rothman's side panel. There's another one under here, right up there. Where is it? Right there. And then there's a full set of Rothman's lowers. Oh, see, I actually do have a set of HRC lowers for it there. So yeah, I got three full sets of bodywork for this bike. There's the other HRC tank. There's the Rothman's tank, HRC upper, Rothman's upper. So yeah, it's been so long I don't even remember what I have. But and then I have my Rothman's pack of cigarettes that my buddy Mark got for me to go with that. So yeah, 3 full sets of bodywork for the bike, which is kind of cool. And then because I had a friend a number of years ago who, through unfortunate circumstances, I lost touch with. We don't really stay in touch anymore. unfortunately. But he gave me some really good advice a number of years ago, which was, you know, these bikes are becoming rarer and rarer. Even the ones in Japan are getting broken at an alarming rate for parts. He said, get out on eBay and buy as much stuff as you can find for spares. So all of these bins here are full of NS400R stuff. So transmissions, flywheels, oil pumps, CDI boxes, carburetors, cranks. There's a full transmission and cases down there. There's pistons, there's turn signals, there's wiring harnesses, pulsers, everything, clutches. So I've got almost a full bike's worth of parts. So if anything were to go wrong with that bike, and I've already sort of tapped into the spares bin once because I had a CDI go out on it. So there are 2 CDI boxes on these bikes. One CDI box controls, I'm going to get this wrong, but you know, bear with me. I think one controls the lower right side cylinder and the other one controls the upper cylinder and the left front. So this is a V3, so it's 2 forward cylinders, 1 vertical cylinder, and the CDI boxes are controlling different things. So one of them went out, I replaced it, and it was fine after that. So yeah, spare parts, if you haven't got them for one of these bikes, and I imagine it's the same sort of thing for an RG500 and RZ500, I don't know. Spare parts are exceptionally hard to find. So if you haven't hoarded them like I have, and you've got one of these bikes, then it can be difficult to source parts for these things. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Let's kind of do a couple of things here. We're going to drain the fuel out first, strip the bodywork off, clean the bike, and then I might see how it looks with the Rothman stuff. So bottom line is I don't want to fill this tank with fuel until the bike's going back together and I'm ready to run it. I might put it on a fuel bottle to run it initially. Maybe that would be a smarter way to go. And maybe, now I'm thinking out loud here, this is all happening live, folks. Decisions are happening live. Keeping these things full of fuel is a bit of a pain in the neck. So maybe the right thing for me to do here is to run this thing on race fuel with the tank off on a nursing bottle first, and just run it, and then I can put everything back on dry. I can maybe put some 2-stroke oil in that tank and give it a good coating, completely drain it, drain the carbs and you know whatnot. That's the other thing. I ran the thing dry from the carbs until it stalled last time, but the danger of that is that there's always a little bit of fuel left in those carburetors, so I could end up finding myself in a situation where those carbs are gunked up and have to come off and be cleaned, which, let me tell you, on this bike is a giant pain in the ass to take the carbs off, and the part that's a pain is the airbox. So it's just a horrible pain in the neck to get the airbox on and off this bike and deal with the boots. It's really the boots that go between the airbox and the carbs that are an absolute nightmare to get back on. If we have to go to that place, you'll see me struggle with it, and then maybe you've got tips on how to deal with it. I've done it a number of times and I dread it every time. But anyway, let's go. So these 2 containers here, these are just empty diesel exhaust fluid containers for my truck. But since I have to send this stuff to hazardous waste for disposal, I don't want to put it in regular gas cans, so this will have to suffice. I'm just going to drain the stuff out. Kind of dark. but as I said, the two-stroke oil that is in there is Klotz, which is red as well. So that's kind of why it's got that funky color. And if you drain that and you didn't know what I put in there, you'd say that that was probably like 15, 20-year-old fuel, wouldn't you? One down, one to go. That's most of the fuel out. You can see how clean this tank is in here. Pretty spotless. There's no rust in there. So here's the other couple things that I have for this bike, which are kind of cool. I had this jacket custom made. Rothman's Honda jacket. The same guy that did all the rest of my stuff. That would be kind of cool going with the Rothman's livery. And then this is my my Freddie Spencer replica jacket. So I had that one custom made by the same guy as well. It's got the Dionysi logo in the back. Very cool. And then this is pretty rare. Down there is the original Honda NS400R paddock stand that goes with that bike. Again, I'd never used it. I had it repowder coated a while back when I first got it. It has the Honda decal on it. It's not particularly easy to use, but it's there. It's kind of part of the bike's completeness story, I guess I would call it. And then the other thing I have, which you may have seen on my channel, is the shop video, the dealer video that was put out by Honda to educate dealerships, technicians and whatnot on the NS400R. So I have that goes with the bike. And my seat won't release. It helps if you use the right key, actually. So next thing I'll do is remove this heat shield off the exhaust. There's basically just two band clamps on here, a screw on each one. So that's the heat shield. And this thing here hooks behind the fairing there. These side panels are held on by some of the kind of the pegs and grommets, but also by one of these Honda fasteners here. It's just a large flange-headed screw with a collar. Just one of those on each side. And then to get this off, I basically have to pop it out of a grommet here, as my memory serves. Like that. And then slide it back over the tailpipe carefully without scratching the paint. And off it comes like that. Same basic process for this side. One screw or bolt at the bottom here. There's a few more of these grommets and pegs on the left side panel. All right, so to get the tank off, what I'm going to do is remove this vacuum line off the petcock, and then I'll pull the main fuel line off there, and probably take this fuel tap off as well, just to make it easier to get access into there. I'm going to use these hose removers. These things work pretty well depending on how much access you have. They can be quite Quite a handy little item to have to push a fuel hose off. Supposed to using, you know, screwdrivers and pliers and all of that kind of stuff, which you could end up damaging things with those. That worked good. Let's get in here to this one. This is the front tank mount bolt and washer. I'm not sure that that is OEM. Somebody out there is going to know for sure, but I don't think it is. So there is a little bit of fuel left in that tank. You can't get it all out with those regular siphon hoses, so I'm using my little extractor. It's an oil and fluid extractor. There we go. Now we're getting it. So with the lower fairings, it's basically one of these screws, bolts, whatever you want to call them, on the bottom, and then there's 3 Zeus fasteners on the top. And I think, if I remember correctly, I can get the belly pan off in one piece without having to separate the 3 components. So 3 components, obviously left side, right side, and then there's a stiffener in the middle. So I think what I can do is get most of these fasteners undone, and then these are just 1/4 turn Zeus fasteners here, and then leave it hanging and then weasel it out of there somehow. So I obviously got to be careful. I don't want to leave all the weight hanging on one side or the other. The part that does make this a little trickier to get these out is there's ducts on the inside of these that make it. I think I don't want to risk making a muck of this, so I am gonna loosen this stiffener off the front here, just because. Like that. So what I am going to do is to put these back in so I don't lose them. Okay, so one of the things that has happened is this piece of the fairing has broken away. I do recall I had to repair that quite some time ago. It's been plastic welded. That was before I knew about plastics, so I think part of this cleanup job I'm going to do on the bike is I'm going to end up fixing up this tab here with some plastics. We'll have to repair that. So in order to remove the upper fairing, you have to take off the mirrors, and then there's you could unbolt it somewhere at the front here where the headlight is, and yeah. All right, so let's have a look at what we have here. So aside from the filth, I mean, this is not gray, okay? It's black. So you can tell how badly this thing needs to be cleaned. This is just atrocious. So what do we have in here? We have one cylinder upright here, and then we have two cylinders sitting out at the front, and then the attack valves, or that's Honda's name for their power valves. Only the front two cylinders have power valves. The rear cylinder does not. You see up here, there is no power valve in there. It's just basically the pipe comes straight out of the cylinder, comes up over the top, down and out the back. So then you've got two pipes on the right side, and you've got one pipe on the left side. This is the power valve solenoid actuator. And the actual, I think right here, this is the power valve controller at the back. It's been a while since I knew all of this stuff. I haven't had this bike apart for a long time, but I think that's what that is. The CDI boxes are, where are they? They're tucked away over here somewhere, I think. I think they're in behind here, and behind this heat shield, if I remember correctly. Can't even tell. Yeah, they're in there. So you've got your regulator rectifier, and then the two CDI boxes are in behind there. You've got the control, the damper adjustment for the rear shock. I don't know if that's compression, damping, or rebound. Don't remember. This is kind of a strange little fan here. So the fan basically only covers about 3 inches by 4 inches at the most of that radiator, and then there's a little fan. So it's basically like a tube or a box with a fan inside it and a little snorkel against part of the radiator, and then it kind of jettisons the hot air down there. It's, I guess, everything being as compacted it is, it's the only thing they could squeeze in there. So yeah, I don't know how effective that is, but at least it's there. And what else have we got going on? I haven't even kicked this thing over and moved it over yet to see if it's even free yet. Well, it didn't seize while it was in storage, which is good. Didn't expect it would have, but yeah. So I guess the question is, yes, I'm going to clean it up. Yes, I'll have to fix one of the tabs on that lower fairing. And do I really want to go to the trouble of pulling that front fender off and those fork covers? Maybe. Maybe. We'll see. So here's one of the pain in the backsides is you cannot get at the float bowl drains to drain these carbs unless you take this fan out or kind of move it out of the way. And to move that out of the way, it's not just taking that off, but it's clipped onto the frame here, and the only way to get it off the frame without damaging the radiator is to loosen off and partly remove the radiator. I did many years ago put a set of Samco silicone hoses on this bike as well, because the ones that were on it were getting kind of old and a little tired. I do suspect that this radiator is also kind of starting to leak on me, and yeah, so I'll either have to at some point take this off and get it re-cored, or maybe buy another one. And just to show you just how dirty every part of this bike is, it's just, isn't that terrible? You know what that is? That's primer. That's rattle can aerosol primer that I've been using on and off in here for too long, and all that fine particulate dust just finds its way into everywhere. So as you can tell from the color of this oil tank, with the red oil in it, that is clots. And the one nice thing about Clots oil is it smells incredibly good. And what I'm really looking forward to, assuming I can get the bike to start, is running race fuel
and clots. There is no better smell. There really isn't. I mean, it's really too bad that smell-o-vision hasn't been invented, because I'm really looking forward to huffing these fumes when they start coming out of the back of this bike. Isn't that terrible? One of the other nice things about this particular bike is I do have the original toolbox in here. That looks a bit better. Knock the cobwebs off it and a bit of the dirt. Much, much better. All right, so a couple of other interesting tidbits about the NS400R. Somebody once said to me, hey, those wheels, those black Comstar wheels are actually supposed to be purple. They're not supposed to be purple. However, sometimes they do look purple. Kind of a funny dark shade of purple. And the reason for that is these are not painted. They are anodized. It's like a black anodizing. And what happens is, as the anodizing wears off, so if somebody has been cleaning the original wheels for a long time, and depending on the products that they've used to do that, the anodizing can start to wear a little thin. And in certain types of light, those wheels can start to look a little bit purple. So they're not supposed to be purple. They are supposed to be black anodized. You know, the bolts that hold them together are supposed to be kind of a gold color like these. The other nice touch on the NS400R is the kickstand has a fairing on it. So when you have the lower fairing mounted on the bike and the kickstand is folded up, it's just like an extension of the lower fairing and the aerodynamics and whatever. It's just kind of a nice, I mean, not it's going to make a whole lot of difference there aerodynamically, but it's a nice design touch. You know, nice typical Honda attention to detail, I guess. So this is the oil that this bike has been running since I've owned it, and I've owned it for 13 years. And this is the last liter of the stuff that I have. And quite frankly, this will probably last as long as I own this bike. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some fuel, just a little bit. I'll put a little dribble of this into it, just so I'm running some Premix for the first little bit. And then, yeah, we'll see if she fires up. So again, just showing the level of completeness of this bike. It also still has the helmet holder here. Vast majority of bikes, these little helmet holders that goes in the helmet lock are long gone, but this bike still has it, which is really nice. So I'll throw some of the statistics on the screen here for the bike, so you can kind of see some of the critical information that came with the bike. I did just look up, and that is a preload adjuster, remote preload adjuster. From the factory, these were rated at 72 horsepower, I think. 72 or 76 horsepower, you'll see it on the screen, at 9,500 RPM. From my recollection, not too many of these have ever registered much more than like 55 horsepower on a dyno. So whether or not Honda were a little generous in their numbers, or whether they were measuring crankshaft horsepower versus typically what people see, like, you know, 52 to 56 horsepower at the rear wheel, I think is generally what people have seen from a horsepower perspective out of these bikes. But either way, you know, compared to today's, you know, leader bikes or whatnot, these things are nowhere near as fast, although they are tons and tons of fun to ride. Comparatively speaking, I would guess that when you look back at the 500s that Suzuki with the RG Gamma and Yamaha with the RZ or RZ, depending when you're from, put out. The NS400R was not as quick, for sure it was not as quick, but it did handle a lot better. Now, I've never ridden an RG 500. I did have an RZ 500, which I foolishly sold. And in that bike, it was a little quicker for sure, but it was a heavy pig of a bike, to be honest. For for an old school, a relatively small sized 500cc two-stroke, it was a heavy bike compared to this. So this at the time, everything that I've seen and heard in magazine articles would say that this was the better handling bike and would out-handle those other two, but it certainly did not keep up with the 500s, in a straight line or an acceleration, top speed, and all that kind of thing. They had the jump on the 400 for sure. The 400 versus 500, why didn't Honda build a 500? Well, I think there's a lot of speculation around that. Some say that it's, the Honda did not want to compete in the 500 level with Suzuki and Yamaha when they produced their bikes. I'm not sure whether that is the case or not. I mean, I think Honda is quite a capable company. If they wanted to produce a 500, they could have. I think more likely the reasons were more geared around the insurance laws in Japan specifically, which basically anything like 400 cc's and under was a much more affordable and therefore a larger market to sell a 400cc two-stroke. As soon as you get into the 500s, insurance costs in some parts of the world went through the roof. So Honda stuck to the 400, whereas maybe Yamaha and Suzuki weren't as concerned about that particular issue. Whatever the reason, this bike was only produced in the 400cc, and of course it was a tribute bike to the bike that Freddie Spencer rode to the World Championship in the prior years, to 1986. I can't remember now what year he won the championship. Was it 84 maybe? And then they produced these bikes in 85, 86. Again, I'm not 100% sure. We only got them in 1986 here in Canada. There were other countries that got them, I think in 85, maybe in 87. I don't know for sure. But either way, they are getting more and more rare, depending on the country that you live in. I think the UK still seems to have, although they're getting kind of rare and valuable there too. Some of the European countries and the UK seem to still have a lot more of these than we do here in North America and Canada. And as far as I know, there were 0 of these bikes imported into the United States directly by Honda dealers. I think most of the bikes that are now in the United States of this kind are bikes that were either purchased in Canada and taken to the US, or ones that were imported from other countries into the US at a later date. So never sold in the United States, partly I think due to the emission laws and regulations there at the time. And unfortunately, that whole emissions scare, I think, kind of in the maybe it was at the late 80s, early 90s, kind of put a lot of the two-stroke motorcycles to bed. Really, that kind of was the end of the era. And then MotoGP in and of itself kind of evolved into the four-stroke realm, and people kind of started gravitating away from the two-strokes and for multiple reasons, which is unfortunate, because people will say, well, you can't have a clean burning emissions compliant two-stroke engine anymore. That technology is not available, which is 100% wrong, 100% false. So sure, the old school, which this is old school technology, whether you're doing premix or oil injection of this ilk, yeah, they're smoky. And sure, you could make the argument these things are not sort of EPA friendly. They're not emissions friendly at all. They're not that efficient from that perspective. However, new technology that is around today and still being produced today for outboard motors and for snowmobiles, those companies, whether it's Johnson, Evinrude, Skidoo, which is Bombardier recreational products, probably Polaris and others, are still producing high horsepower, EPA compliant to the current and future EPA standards, two-stroke engines. So I recently sold my last Skidoo snowmobile was a 2017 two-stroke 850 twin, producing 165 horsepower, and it was EPA compliant, and probably, according to Bombardier, I think most of their two-strokes have been as clean, if not cleaner, than their four-strokes as far as the burn goes. The technology that has gone into the production of new two-stroke engines is absolutely incredible. They use so little oil for burning that it's also almost worrying, and yet the reliability of the engines and the longevity of these engines is absolutely unsurpassed compared to what it used to be. They're super reliable. You can rev the living snot out of them. You ride. I could have ridden my sled all weekend and for several weeks, let's say, and still never topped it up with two-stroke oil. They're very, very precisely metered. The oil galleries are not just it's not just fed into the intake and thrown through a set of carburetors anymore. Of course, it's direct injection for fuel injection. It's also the oil injection that they have now on the new two-strokes. It's taking very precise amounts of oil, even to the crankshaft journals and into all kinds of places. So it's not just mixing it with fuel anymore and just blowing it around the crankcase and hoping for the best. It's very precisely metered to very specific locations to give maximum engine protection, as well as to give very, very, very good emissions numbers on these engines. So anyway, so suffice it to say, too bad that the two-stroke motorcycle era kind of ended for the street. Certainly you can still buy a two-stroke for the dirt, but yeah, the technology didn't die. The technology continued on, it evolved, and it's better now than it's ever been from a two-stroke perspective. It's just unfortunate that the market is not there. Nobody's actually building, at least not for the main manufacturers, a nice two-stroke 500 or 850 or whatever you want to call it. There's nothing out there from the big manufacturers. There's just no demand, I guess. But anyway, there you go. The two-stroke engine, certainly not dead in motorsports, but it certainly is not alive and well anymore from a street bike perspective. All right, so I'm not sure if you get as excited about bike parts as I do, but I thought I'd just open up one of the many NS400R bins that I have here, just to kind of just show you how my hoarding kind of got the better of me. So these are the set of air ducts that go on the inside of the lower fairings. So there's one set, and I made sure that I had enough to go in all the extra sets of fairings that I had. So there's a second set, and there's I believe that is it. Where's that? Cycle World. It's a brand new one. There's one there. So they've got water pump, I think that is there. There's the T-pipes. That's not the only one of those that I have. There's another one. I have a cooling system. And then mirrors. There's a very nice set of mirrors there. There's another one. And then another set of Samco silicone hoses. I don't even know what half the stuff is in here. There's another water pump. So I've got 2 water pumps. I lie, I have 3 water pumps. Why? I do not know. There's an expansion tank. More hoses there. So yeah, I just back when I first got the bike, and this would be say 2012, and I just started going absolutely crazy, buying everything I could get my hands on as far as spare parts for these bikes was concerned. And at least that way I know that I'm never going to be short. You never know what's going to go, right? You never know what you're going to need, And part of my problem is once I bought stuff, I forget what I bought, and then I ended up buying it again, of course. So the other question is, what is it like to ride one of these bikes? As I said before, they handle really well. It's a very light and agile bike. The interesting thing about riding this bike, as it would be, I guess, with a lot of two-strokes from this era, unless it's kind of really on the pipe and you know, the power valves have kicked in, it's a bit sluggish until you hit 7,000. So basically, what happens with these bikes is the power valves are open until you hit about 7,000 RPM. So basically, from low RPMs up to 7 grand, 6 grand, or whatever, it's a dog. It is an absolute dog. It'll go nowhere very quickly. But once you hit 7,000 RPM and those power valves snap shut, you better be holding on. It's like being strapped to a missile. It's like a rat out of an aqueduct. The thing just flies. It's a little bit like an on-off switch. Like, there's nothing under 7 grand. You kind of going, you start riding the thing and you go like, well, what's the fuss all about? This is a complete pig. It's not going to go anywhere. And then you hit 7,000 and it's like just like throwing a switch. And that's when the fun really starts. And you keep this thing on the boil, and you can certainly eke past 140 kilometers an hour in third gear, when it's on the pipe, when you're really revving the nuts off it. It's gonna just absolutely scream. And you can't, the reality is you cannot ride it like that, at least I don't anyway, all the time. So generally, if you're kind of cruising around, you're on the highway or on the back roads, I'm just not a big fan of kind of belting the living daylights out of it continually, and 7 to 10 grand range or whatever. I just can't bring myself to do that. So if I'm cruising around on the bike, I'm probably at around 6,000, 5,500 RPM, just because I don't want to be revving the nuts off it continually. The problem with that is once in a while you have to wind it back up again. Is kind of the best way that I can describe it. You've got to downshift, wind it back up, give it some revs, because it will load up after a time, I think, is the best way to describe it. So yeah, it performs best over 7,000 when those power valves are closed. But boy, when you hit 7,000 RPM, hang on, it's a whole whack of fun when that thing kicks in and those power valves close. It just starts screaming. So yeah, that's kind of the general riding experience. I would say very flickable, very, very light. Great for the kind of the back roads, the country roads, that kind of thing. On the highway, not a lot of fun. And the reason I say it's not a lot of fun on the highway is it's too light. And it's too late because if you're getting passed by, in the opposite direction, transport trucks, that kind of thing, you're going to get, you've got to basically anticipate that the trucks are coming, and you got to get down behind the windshield, because you're going to, it just kind of wants to blow the bike all over the place because it's so light. And I'm sure it's the same way on a lot of lightweight motorcycles. I haven't ridden, super lightweight bikes in a long time, except for this one on the highway. But the whole act of getting blown around by wind gusts from transport trucks is not a lot of fun. Back a few years ago, probably 2020, I think it was, I did a whole pile of work to this bike. I put brand new tires on it. You could still see, I've ridden it, but the nibs are even still on the tires. So it hasn't seen many miles since I put the new tires on it. I put brand new brake discs on it, front and back. Those things are basically brand new. They're not even worn. You can still see the cross hatching on those brand new rotors. I put rear brake pads and rotor on it as well. I got those new, those wheels were brand new not brand new, they were used but new to me from Japan, because the ones that came on the bike when I got it, somebody had stripped the anodizing off the rim. on both the front and the rear. So I bought new to me wheels for it from Japan. So I did that a few years ago. I did a full service on the power valves, and what else did I do? I don't know. I went through all kinds of stuff. I did a whole pile of small kind of maintenance things on the bike a few years ago, back in 2020, I think it was. And since then, since 2020, this bike has only been started, I want to say twice, maybe twice at the most since then, and only for kind of a few minutes. So we are going to fire this thing up today. We're going to listen to it. I'm going to smell it a lot. You're not going to smell it, but you're going to wish you could. And yeah, it's just a beautiful little bike. It's so nicely put together. It's a rolling piece of artwork, beautifully anodized aluminum frame. Yeah, it's just a gorgeous little bike. And this is I would say this is the cornerstone of my motorcycle collection. I think if for any reason I was to sell this bike, I would probably just end up dissolving my entire collection, because this, to me, this is kind of the anchor point to this is the first bike that I bought when I decided to get back into motorcycles. I had one of these back in, what year was it? 2000. The year 2000, I bought an NS400R. And I'll show you the picture of it. It's over here. I had it plaqued many years ago. This is the one I had. That's my NS400R. And that picture was probably taken in 2000. Actually, no, it was taken in 1999, 1998, I guess it was. So somewhere in there, I bought that bike. All right, so this is kind of the carb setup on this bike. So this is my spare set of carburetors. I just want to show you what a pain in the backside it is to get at the drain. So they basically sit in the bike like this. Bike's here. And when you look at the drain setup on these things, what a huge pain. Barely accessible unless you pull the radiator off, or you might be able to get to a couple of them, I think, if you pull that fan off. But getting to number 3 here, that's not going to be a simple task at all. All right, so let's see if she's going to pop over here. Turn the fuel on, that'll help. Came to life at once. That hasn't happened before. My oil light is on the dash. I don't know if you can see that from here, but that could be the battery, or I think also the sensor in the oil tank isn't actually working properly. Choke at the moment. Let it warm up a little bit, although it shouldn't take long. It's pretty warm out here today. The oil light on there. There's a sensor in here, and last last time I played with it and the light went off, so I think it could be just a sensor. Bad contact. Quite nicely there. Yeah, see the sensor, I believe, for the oil tank is right in here. I have to play with that a little bit. Sounds really good. I will say the NS400R doesn't sound as good as the RZ500 or the RG500. It's I mean it's a two-stroke, so of course you gotta love the sound. But they do sound a little moped-ish. It's like a trio of mopeds running. Yeah, she's running good. Can't complain of that. It has been sitting around for 2 years. It's fired up quite nicely. Get the fan going here just to get a little bit of airflow through the radiator. Also keeps the smoke from blowing back into the shop. Just going to run it long enough to basically drain off all of this premix that I put in here. Kind of curious what temperature these pipes are at. Degrees hotter on the top one. So there you go. There's a first look at the NS400R. What's under the skin. And yeah, she ran pretty good. It's been 2 years, as I said, since this bike ran. She fired right up. So no complaints about that. And in the next video, I think we'll see what happens. I may be motivated to put the Rothman's Bodywork on it and see how it looks. And then I also may need to take a look at that sensor for the oil tank, see if we can get that light to work. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video.